Hi, Nicholas. Welcome to Furniture Success Podcast.
Hi, Matt. Thanks for having me.
Could you tell us about yourself, your background, and how did you get started your own design company, STRE Designs?
Yeah, you know, my background starts all the way back from where I was born and raised in Minneapolis, Minnesota. I went to high school out there, actually at a kind of an arts magnet high school, and we got laptops for being able to do our schoolwork, and they had some CAD software on it, so I started designing on there, and started going through school. And in Minnesota you can go to college during high school, and so I started going to college in high school at Minneapolis Community Technical College for welding, and then going to school for machining as well. And so a lot of my furniture that I kind of design has metal aspects into it. And The premise of STRE Designs, we are more or less a job shop, machine shop for the furniture industry. But how I got there is in 2016, I first got a job as an intern at Herman Miller as a model maker. Went through their shop, and they have a full model shop. Everything from woodworking to CNC machining to welding to uh, sheet metal stuff to a paint booth, 3D printing, pretty much anything you can think of for a design shop. They have it. Um, so it was a really great opportunity to work there. Um, End of that internship came in August 2016. Went back, finished up my schooling that year. Came back to Herman Miller as a model maker again in 2017. Another internship, but then they hired me in full time. Got to work with a few different engineers and designers there, and got to work on some of the product that has come out of Herman Miller before people were able to buy it. So it's pretty cool to see their process of it. It's surprising. It takes a few years to get the next chair out. It's not, it doesn't just take 6 months. So it takes a few years of testing and reiterations. I mean, most chairs that they would see, you'd start with plywood and bicycle seats and bungee cords, and get all the way up to what you end up seeing with what comes out of there. And got So I got hired in full time at the end of that internship in 2017. Kind of worked there until 2020. But in 2019 I started STRE Designs, and the hopes was to be kind of like um, a private model shop, a shop that someone could come to. They're looking for parts to get made, and we would help make their products. And kind of focusing in on the furniture and lighting industry. Um, and so we um, yep, started in the roots of 2019. Started in a little 2-car garage with one CNC mill and a welder, and kind of just started from there, and did some online job board stuff that kind of helped us get off the ground, and got a lot of our initial income coming from that. Um, and then I got laid off in 2020, right, um, kind of right after COVID hit, and so I got laid off in May I think it was May of 2020. Uh, we stopped working in like March of 2020, but there was a few months of what's happening, we don't know. I mean, initially it was going to be okay. We're going to be off work for 3 weeks, and then we'll be back on work after 3 weeks, and things will be back to normal. And you know, as you know, and a lot of other people in furniture industry, it was a big disruptor from what was known for the furniture industry, and so I got laid off, and that's fine. It worked out for me. I've been now running the business now for about 6 years, and we've grown it to have four machines. Now we have an intern, Machines kind of include two lathes, two mills, all CNC equipment, and then a few other various shop equipments like drill presses and sanders and all that. So, and then our main customers, we're looking at lighting companies, some higher end lighting companies,
Mm-hmm.
and working with other contract furniture manufacturers in the local Grand Rapids area.
Mm-hmm.
Because at one point in time, Grand Rapids, Michigan was known as Furniture City, USA, and so you see a lot of the contract and office furniture companies based out of Michigan.
Well, and like you know, you get education and then you started, as an intern, one of the big name companies, in of
Hmm.
furniture, industry. So, and then you started your own business. And like, what inspired you to focus on, your own company, your own design? Because I know that, you know, uh, you got laid off, but you were thinking about resigning, right? You had your resign letter ready, and uh, you were about to thinking, hey, like, are they gonna lay us off, or like,
Hmm.
should I do it now? Like, these are the things that you had in your mind, and it's not,
Hmm.
you know, uh, it's not a stable market. Like, especially at the beginning of the COVID, like,
Hmm.
it would go, worse, or like way better than your expectations. So how did you manage it? And that's my first question. And then can you tell us, like, switching from one of the big name companies to your own custom furniture business, uh, how did you use your experience at Herman Miller? Because
Hmm.
like, it's like corporate job, as you mentioned, like, it takes 2 years to design a product, right? So,
Hmm.
but you cannot make money if you, complete a design project in 2 years. Do you understand what I mean? Like, you
Yeah,
have to be,
yeah,
more agile. So, can you
yeah.
tell us, like, how did you manage your mindset uh, side, and also like your experience? How did you implement?
Yeah, like you mentioned, in early March, 2020, kind of before COVID hit America, I had written up a resignation letter, and I was about to give it to my manager over there. And my girlfriend, now wife, said, "Hey, maybe you should hold off on your resignation, and let's see how this COVID thing shakes out, because maybe you won't have a job come a few months." And that's what ended up happening, is I ended up just getting laid off. They gave us a little severance package, depending on how many years you worked there. Wasn't much for me, because at the time I only worked there for about 2 years of actual full time work experience. Um, but even though I was working at Herman Miller, and you would think that you would end up getting a lot of good names through there, and some I did. There's some designers that I've worked with, that reached out to me after leaving Herman Miller, and I worked with them independently. And for the most part, I haven't actually designed and built many of my own furniture pieces, and sold any of them. I'm more of an asset for, or a vendor for, a lot of the furniture companies.
Hmm.
And so I just kind of wanted to start STRE Designs as a kind of a model shop, a place for other companies to come to, and get their prototype parts made. We have made some production parts for some chairs. There was um, one chair that we worked on, that we started with prototyping, and we made everything from the seat base structure to the spine to the armrest to the swivel base. And we made two prototypes for them. And this is a company that will is kind of well known for being, they don't really make their own furniture, but they help other companies make their furniture.
Mhm.
Um, and
So
so that's
you are in actually you are in a very niche, business, right?
yeah, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, pretty niche, not, I'm really here to try to help other people be successful in the furniture,
Mhm.
industry, furnishing industry, pretty much anything that ends up in a house. Um, I have had some talks that I am gonna try to launch a high-end, shelving unit,
Mhm.
um, but, I think we're launching that in November. We're going there's a food, wine, and beer festival that I'm gonna be, launching it with, but, yeah, and so that's my first actual introduction of our own designs and whatnot,
Mhm.
and yeah, I mean, that does that answer? Yeah.
And yeah, that's a great answer. And what's been the biggest turning point in your career, like as a designer and business owner, like
Mhm.
your turning point, Nicholas?
Yeah, like, I mean, turning point to kind of start doing our own designs is when you're a company that helps other companies um, make their own products, you're always providing quotes, and you're always in a way of unless that particular customer has a good relationship with you and wants to continue and knows your work. It seems like you're always fighting the other machine shop, the other shop out there. And so, starting our own product and with this higher end shelving, we kind of saw a niche where A, it's not competing with our customers, and B, it uses a lot of our talents that we already have without buying new equipment. So,
I see. And like when you were working at a corporate job, you were just focusing on your, role, and that's it.
mm-hmm.
Like your
Yep.
responsibilities are limited. But when you
Mm-hmm.
start your own company, there are, some business problems, like every business owners, face that reality. Like the business has like, finance, operations, customer relationship,
Mm-hmm.
marketing, like, and what was the most challenging part for you? And also how did you manage it as a new business owner, especially?
Yeah. Yeah, I'd say the most challenging part that I had to face was, um, when you're an employee, you get your take home check and you make whatever you make per year, and that's for you to spend, and you don't have to worry about taxes and anything like that. And my biggest thing was understanding that, hey, you might get $100,000, from, various customers, but you're only gonna be able to spend, 60 to 70% of that. And even of that, you end up having to, um, put away for equipment and other things. So, I ended up still making about at this point now, I ended up still making about what I was making at Herman Miller. Um, I have you end up seeing that you have a larger gross revenue coming in, but by the time it comes down to the end of the stream, the net, um, there just isn't as much as what you would think. Um, but the struggles with that came in with going and saying, okay, we're gonna look at what taxes were last year and dividing that up over quarterly and saying, okay, now we gotta save way this way for quarterly, and going, okay, we have X amount of dollars for tooling and new equipment because you're always getting new equipment, you're always getting something, new tools. So just kind of saving away for that. And then you always have to have your rainy day fund. The equipment that we have is not cheap. Our cheapest machine I think we paid like $30,000 for it,
Yeah.
and our most expensive one is around like 150,000. So, yeah, none of what we're working with is cheap, even compared to um a lot of the wood furniture manufacturers that deal directly with wood. A lot of them can start off with a $500 table saw and a few $100 router. You can even buy a wood CNC router for, $3,000-4,000 brand new, and get away with it for a while. But the equipment that we use, because we're cutting metal, has to be a lot more rigid, a lot more able to take the cuts that you don't really see with that. So, um, they're bigger, they're heavier, you know, they weigh thousands of pounds.
Mhm.
I can't move them. I have to hire people to move the equipment when I need to get it moved. So there's just a lot more struggles. They're not struggles. There's a lot more things that go in with a business like mine that you just don't see with other traditional woodworking furniture businesses.
Wow. Yeah. Did you read Emmett e entrepreneurship? Like there is a book Emmett. Like I highly recommend it to you.
Yes.
Like and there's one profit first, and it was
Mhm.
like my colleagues. So you can read that as well. Like on profit first, like it gives you an idea like how to allocate your operation
Mhm.
taxes, owners pay, your profit, and you should be making profit because it is one of the biggest mistakes that done by new business owners. Like they make money, revenue, gross revenue, but at the end of the day, they have nothing to put into their packets, and there's no profit, and it goes like that for months and even years. And yeah, so I'm gonna be asking you about your corporate experience, like because like um in that role, like you had an opportunity to observe like how big companies manage their designing process and how they approve it, and how they successfully um manufacture it after the design. So but for you, like you started like a one-man army, then you hired people, some interns, and you have a team right now. So how did you implement these, principles in your small design shop when we compare Herman Miller? Sort of like I as it's small, but we are all small business owners.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, as you can imagine, I mean, at the time when I was at Herman Miller, there were like a total of like 5,000 people, somewhere around there. And so, um, when you work in a big company, you get to focus directly on what your talents are good at, what you went to school for, like what you have taken passion for. Um, and you don't have to worry about the ordering of material. We even within the model shop, there was people that were there just to order material and to get organize all the parts lists and whatnot. So we were given like, here's one piece to the big puzzle within even bigger puzzle to do. So and um but so taking that into my own business, in a way, the model shop was like a micro business within, the bigger organization of Herman Miller. Um, and so you get to see a lot of how over the years they've been able to work through the model shop, and I've been able to kind of implement some of those things that I saw. Like for instance, we'll get we'll get orders for pretty much to make every component within a like a task chair. ergonomic seating chair. And so we got to first take it apart, or take apart the part list and see what needs to get done, and put it all, figure out what materials are needed and get those all ordered, brought in.
Mm.
Uh, and then, we just kind of have some bins that when the parts are done, they kind of go into a project bin. Um, and so you get to learn a lot of things from working at a larger shop or a corporate shop to that, help translate into a smaller business like mine.
So, how is your process right now? Like, how do you, take the client's idea,
Mhm.
from concept to, final product, right?
Yeah. Yeah, so right now, we'll get a design in usually from, the designer or client, um, and if it's a bigger project, we'll kinda have an initial project meeting, kind of over Zoom, and uh, just get the base idea. And then once we get a kind of rough idea of how the chair and or product is going to work, get built and assembled, we'll take that back on our end and look at further details, and we'll look at machinability, and we'll give recommendations on, hey, if you change this, or if you do this with the product, at least on our end, it will save you guys, this much money, or it will save us this much time, and ultimately money for you guys. And so a lot of times, these engineers and designers are willing just to kind of sacrifice a little bit of design, or instead of having a sharp corner, it's like, hey, let's put in a quarter-inch radius into this corner. And they're like, oh yeah, that doesn't really matter, because it was just, because ultimately most of these parts and components are going to be injection molded, or they're going to be cast parts, or they're going to be uh, pretty much, they're not gonna be machined at the end of the day. But we still need to get them ready to get machined and made.
Mm.
So then after we go through that process, we'll machine the parts, and we'll either do some assembly here, or the end customer, usually they do a lot of the assembly and fitting, because really they're using the what we're making to help uh, make it, or they're using what we make
Mhm.
to identify the changes that they need to make for, um, feasibility of making it. Or maybe there's times that they get the parts that we make and they test it out, they sit in it, and it completely breaks, and it wasn't anything that we machined, we made it to their specifications, but they you don't know how things gonna react. You can do CAD models and simulations and whatnot, but until you actually, get something out there, you just don't know how, the dynamics of a person's body or is gonna affect the end product. So,
Mhm.
yeah.
And yeah, like, and your clients are saving money, investing in their products, and, you give them some feedbacks. It's very good. Yeah. And how do you attract, right customers and projects, Nicholas? Like, do you use your network, you know, or how do you market yourself?
Yeah, the biggest way that we achieve new customers, one, a lot of our customers are repeat customers, so when we get them, they tend to come back. That's usually because they're just like anyone else, they're constantly iterating new designs and new products, and so they constantly are gonna in a need for a shop. Um, and then how we gain new customers is a lot of it is word of mouth, or like one engineer or designer goes from one company to another company. They need to get some components made, and then they go, "Oh, hey, we did really well when I was working at XYZ company with STRE Designs. Let's go try them again when I'm working here." And then, they might leave again, but the new relationship with that new business has been started, and they continue working with us. Um, but like, right now we've seen a big drop, recently, since kind of end of June, July, and orders coming in. And my speculation on that is we've seen a lot of things in manufacturing change, and
Yep.
no one quite knows
Tech.
how to. Yep, no one quite knows how to handle the tariffs, and everyone's kind of trying to hold their money and
Yeah.
not really spend, and no one really knows what's going to happen because we have a individual that is of power that we just don't know what's going to happen. We can't understand what's going to happen.
Yep.
um, and some, it could be good, it can be bad. We just gonna have to wait and see how time tells with what happens. But in the immediate, it really is affecting us immediately right now.
Yeah.
Um, and some of that is seasonal. I've been
Yeah. Like
what?
May, June, July. Like these are the slow months,
Yeah,
slow seasons
yep,
for furniture industry.
yeah,
Overall, but not like this slow, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Usually we'll get a drop, for like a week or two, nothing more than a week or two,
Yep.
and I once I think it was either from another podcast or someone was telling me, he's like, no, every business is seasonal no matter what, and there's some businesses that are seasonal in the sense that they slow down by 60% during a time, and other businesses are seasonal like a ski hill where, well, you're not going skiing in the middle of summer, but they also have, even, a ski hill like the one by our house, they have, mountain bike races, and they do other things during the summer, and they have weddings and things there, but for us, we definitely see the seasons where it's based on when holidays are. So, right after Christmas, we're pretty busy the beginning of January, but then we see the dip off at the end of January because everyone was gone during Christmas. We're gone for the 2 to 3 weeks, and everyone was pushing through right before the holidays came, and then they had to get all the new products and new designs are going in January. Then we get really busy again February, March, and then we're located, you know, about 3 hours from Chicago, so a lot of our businesses end up going to NeoCon, and so it gets really busy right before NeoCon, and that launches in June. So, and then after NeoCon, it slows down again, and then, uh, end of August, hopefully September, it usually starts to kinda see some more pickup, and then we get really busy kinda through October, November, December. So yeah, it's
Yeah.
you definitely see seasons. It's
Yeah.
just this off season's been seems a lot harder than it has been,
Yeah.
the previous years.
Yeah, I think the expectation was different. I don't wanna like I don't even watch news. And I don't care about politicians, but I need to care about my clients, and that's why I need to follow up, know what's going on. But the problem is kind of like, we need to be patient, and we need to survive in this economy, and it's going to be okay soon. Like
Yeah.
people need furniture, right? And some high end, furniture buyers, they are affected less,
Mhm.
but when we go to low end, like it's like kind of really, really tough right now, like
Mhm.
the very competitive. And during COVID, it was booming, everything was okay. And the problem, I think, like if you have your, especially regarding marketing, like if you have your fundamentals, your setup right, and then you are gonna be recession proof. And I just did it, for my clients, and they're protected, like they didn't fail during this, slow season because they're getting, people from different sources. I mean, like from organic, social media, organic Google search results, even AI, generative AI, ChatGPT. Like when people ask questions, who should I work with? What could be
Yeah.
the furniture store for this project? Like, or who could be the designer? And if you did it right, like you're gonna be recommended by AI. And
Mhm.
but other than that, if you have paid ads right, social media ads, if you know who to target, who how to target ready to buy customers, then you're gonna be protected. You're gonna be affected less than your competitors.
Mhm.
And when I talk to people during strategy calls right now, like they're like, yeah, I wish they had done something different in the past,
Yeah.
because like they have some regrets, especially not investing on time. That's a major thing, because if you hit by you know recession, then you might
Mhm.
not have the money that or capital that you
Yeah.
need to invest, to keep your business up and running. But for businesses like yours, you have strong connections with designers, others in furniture industry. So, yeah, and your expenses are okay. I believe like they are balanced. So you're gonna be recession proof as well. But if you scaled your business like crazy during COVID, and then if you don't have any demand for your products and services, then you need to lay off people. You need to um, maybe even sell your tools and other things to
Mhm.
cover your expenses to keep your business up and running, or you're gonna sell it, or you're gonna God forbid, like you're gonna be shutting down your doors, which is
Mhm.
really sad for furniture stores. Um, my question is like you started your business adventure dur- during COVID, like unexpected, environment. Now it's
Mhm.
still kind of uncertainty, like COVID. But this time, like it's not going up, it's going down. So, um, and your customer satisfaction, your network is more important than ever, because like you are dependent to those people, and you need to deliver uh, what they expect from you each time, because you may lose their business. So can you tell us about your quality process,
Mhm.
quality assurance process, and customer relationship? How do you keep, how many times do you touch base with them, like how do you get requirements and write the agreement for the projects, because we all know that like once you complete it, they might say like this is something that we don't want, like,
Yeah.
and you need to have your own proofs, right?
Yeah.
So how do you manage it? Like, what's your system in your company now?
Yeah. The STRE Designs for the most part, as mentioned, we're not really making our um we're making components and stuff that someone else has designed, and we're getting CAD models. So we're getting some pretty serious data. We're usually, we're not designing, we're not sketching it out. So they
Mm,
pretty much already know what the minimum that they're going to get. Um, and usually the biggest concerns that we've ever had with clients is if it was a surface finish thing. But most of the time, our parts end up getting painted or powder coated or covered up. Now obviously you need to have a good base with that, to do that, as far as surface finish goes. Um, but, um, we have various measuring tools to be able to measure hole placement and to measure, um, dimensions of a part. And so what we'll end up doing is, in the manufacturing process, we'll have it inside the machine and we'll measure things as they're being machined, stop the machine, measure, check, stop it, and totally redo the program if needed. Um, sometimes we're making a one-off part that is, 20 inches by 20 inches, and that's a pretty big part, and you're really not. you're really not gonna scrap that part, or if you, uh, that you're gonna try to figure out a way to work with the customer if there's an issue. A lot of times if the biggest issue that we have had is maybe our cutters, cut in too deep, and, we'll have to talk with them and say, "Hey, this issue happened. Do you mind if we weld this area up and remachine over it and sand it down?" And at the end of the day, you don't you're not gonna see that blemish,
Yeah.
because like I said, it gets painted. Um, but then there's other times where, it's a small part that fits in your hand, and it might take us, and we're making 20 of them, and it'll take us 10 minutes to make another one, and so it's like, well, just scrap the one and just make another one because it doesn't make any sense for us to spend an hour and a half to fix a blemish even though we could fix it. So sometimes we just go ahead and just scrap it. Um, but but once it's all done machining and made, we will, go through and, do a visual inspection, make sure everything holes are tapped, make sure things are reamed if they need to be reamed, and just make sure the features are where they're supposed to.
Mhm.
And luckily we have a fourth axis on a machine, so we can do some complicated parts in one setup versus other people that might have three axes and can't do everything in one setup. And so we're fortunate enough to be able to have equipment that allows us to do things in less operations and to eliminate some of the variables that we'll see in it.
And how do you manage timing and, meet the deadline?
Yeah. We I wanna knock on some wood. I haven't really had many delayed parts, for the most part, the farthest out I think we've ever shipped something was a week. But when we get into that pinch, we usually know of that pinch, a week or 2 before it happened, and we're in communication with our customer and saying, "Hey, this thing happened, it unexpected," or even things out of our control. Like, we've been, where the power went out for 2 days. And,
Mhm.
storm came through, power went out for 2 days, and it's just like, "Hey, I know that we were supposed to deliver, uh, on Friday, but we were out of power for Wednesday and Thursday. Can we deliver it to you on Monday?" And we'll work the weekends if needed to get done if we didn't prior have any, you know, commitments prior. But yeah, we make sure we get the components done on time, and for the most
Mhm.
part, um, we're not in an industry, like I see other shops are, where if they're if we're late by a day or 2, usually it's not the end of the world. Um, it's not like we're making parts for, a local, um, company that mass produces. Say like there's one company, that makes salad dressings in town. Well, if their salad dressing line goes down for, 1 day, they're probably losing, $5,000 an hour. And so if they're down for a whole day, you can put the math out, and you can pretty easily find, they're gonna lose maybe even $100,000 or so within a day being down. So we're fortunate enough within this industry that most people are understanding, and when you have a concern,
Mhm.
um, and sometimes you get in the middle of making a part, and you didn't notice a feature that was harder to make, or something was a little off, and you just go back, communicate, call them up. Usually, you find giving a call, and talking with them over the phone gets a quicker response, and it gets things moving than an email. And, we all know that email sometimes either A, it's hard for you to communicate through an email what the problem is, or B, someone is gone on vacation, and you can quickly figure that one out instead of a half a day or a day goes by, and then all of a sudden they come back from vacation. They're like, "Oh, sorry, if you would have called me, I would have been able to say, 'Oh, go talk to person B,' and they would be able to get your answer."
Mhm.
Which, if we don't get answers sometimes, within our own shop, we'll have a part sit on there for a day and a half, 2 days because we didn't have an answer, and it would take us, a lot longer to get it reset up. So sometimes our equipment just ends up sitting because we can't get the answers. But well, but a lot of that, is seen before with those initial meetings with our clients initial, uh, with our CAM software, we're able to do some machining on the computer basically before it goes into the equipment, and you can see that, and so we can see a lot of problems before it actually gets in the machine. But there are definitely some times that you get out there, you get going, and you go, "Oh, wait, what happened there? That wasn't what I thought," and you just have to make the sideline call and get it
Yep.
going.
And communication is the key, right? Like
Yeah,
managing the overall process. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Let's talk about innovation. Like you invested in tools, like there is AI like huge coming through, us and what do you think about tech, innovation, like AI, 3D modeling, you know, and the future trends?
Mhm. Um, Personally, I think you gotta look at what it was like in the early 1900s, right? You had pretty much just hand tools, not even, like, manual equipment. And then manual, more precise manual equipment came around and eliminated a few people's jobs and made things more efficient. But people were able to move on. And hopefully, what happened is a lot of people that were ready to retire that were used to that kind
Mhm.
of either got let go or maybe they did a little bit earlier retirement, and the company usually gives out like some sort of early retirement bonus or something. But, you know, innovation is needed. You're not if you wanna continue working in the world that we live in, you can take a look at, like, the Amish, for instance. I go to trade shows and things, and you'll see the Amish there, and, they're innovating themselves, there's people they even have equipment that you wouldn't think that they would have, but they've had to adapt to be able to become, um, competitive
Yeah.
within today's market. Um, and so, within my own business, we've used AI and ChatGPT and stuff to, um, be able to kind of make some contract stuff, be able to, um, maybe bounce off some ideas or it's like, "Hey, we've never made this or done this, can you help us, give us some articles that will be able to push us that way?" I feel like AI, at this point is like Google on steroids from back in the early 2010s, you know,
Mhm.
and now it's able, you see all the time of college students are now writing papers with ChatGPT and other things, and, I just think it's a tool that, you need to learn and use just like, any other equipment that I have.
Mhm.
It's not something to be afraid of, but it's something to
Adapt,
learn
maybe.
learn, adapt, understand, there's definitely some times where it's like, "Okay, it's not there yet."
Mhm.
I know of some companies out there that, are doing AI programming. They're not quite out there, it's not quite accessible quite yet, but
Mhm.
they're being able to program parts without humans programming the parts and components.
Yep.
Um, it's just a matter of time that you'll have a material rack with a saw that automatically cuts the saw material to length, and a robot picks it up and puts it in the machine, and when a tool breaks, machine knows that it broke, and then the robot comes and replaces the tool with a new tool, and then is able to, you know, feed back to the AI, the computer, and say, "Hey, it broke because we noticed these vibrations or the sensors in the machines saw this." So, it's gonna happen, in my lifetime, maybe not in the next 5 or 10 years, but,
Mhm.
within my lifetime, I think we'll see a lot more of it. I mean, I I think progress isn't something to be feared, but it's something to understand.
Yep, that's great. Yeah, really good answer. So, what keeps you motivated and inspired in a competitive, industry like uh design industry? So,
Mhm. Yeah, what keeps me motivated and inspired? I'd say what keeps me motivated is, well, um without seeing what's coming in new for technology, you're not able to innovate. You end up getting stuck in kind of in the past, which isn't a bad thing. Like my father-in-law, he had his own machine shop and he worked with a lot of equipment that, for a lot of people were thought more or less obsolete, 15 years ago. But he had a very successful business doing it. And there's definitely going to be places for people that don't want to innovate or just, they're like, oh, I got another 10 years in this business. Why am I going to try to achieve more in that?
mhm,
Um, but we're just gonna, you just have to do it. There's just, um, if you want to stay in the events
mhm.
world, if you don't want to be in the
Is
advanced
it
world.
like for you survival mode, like as a business owner, like, hey, I need to show up every day,
Yeah.
keep doing,
Yeah, yeah, no,
you know.
yeah, it is definitely some survival mode. I mean, there's definitely some technology and things out there that, uh, you know, like right now with AI, people think we don't quite know what to think of it at this point, I think. I think there's some things that it's working really well, and there's other things that people are trying, and they're trying to make it work, and ultimately things will fail or they'll succeed, but, you'll learn from the failures. A lot of people, um, they might wanna start a business, but they're so afraid of the failures or the advancements, or, I remember one time when I was, a past coworker of mine, I was putting a machine in my girlfriend's garage. I didn't even own the first place that machine was in, and he's like, "What happens if you guys don't work out?" And I looked at him and I said, "What happens if we do work out?" And look, we ended up working out, but I said, "Worst case scenario, if it doesn't work out, I just move the piece of equipment into a rented space and I'll continue going." I mean, these are just things that you work with. This was,
Mhm,
with anything, you just kinda go, well, if you think about what the negatives are on things, it's
mhm,
good to know what the possible negative things are, but if you go, "Well, what's the worst case scenario?" Like, if I'm making a part and I break some tools, worst case scenario, hopefully I just break some tools. Worst, and you succeed. Absolute worst case scenario, you destroy your big piece of equipment, but, you know, I've yet to do that, and I've yet to really damage anything, so, I mean, it's possible, but, um, I don't know, I mean, you just have to get out there. I mean, I think it takes a special person, not special, it just takes a certain, uh, vision or ideology to run a business. Because, if you're always worried about kind of what could happen, you're just not gonna get off the ground to start with, so you just might as well try something, and if it works out, great. If not, reiterate and try again. So,
wow, yeah. And like, one last question, like, what is one lesson you wish you knew when you first started in design business, your own business, and one piece of advice to younger yourself?
Yeah, um, I'd say as far as business goes, just the business side of business, I would say, um, having separate buckets for finances, you that'd probably be the biggest thing. When you see $50,000 in the bank, it's not actually $50,000. It's you might actually only have $20,000 with it. So I'd say, identify that. Um, the United States is a great place for you to start a business, but the government doesn't exactly hold your hand on how to do business. And so there's pluses, minuses of that. If you look at other countries that kind of really hold your hands, you see that the economics are not as good as other countries that kind of just allow you to go for it. Now,
Yep.
people get scared with the IRS and other things if they do something wrong. Um, for the most part, I have yet to meet any entrepreneur or any person that has done something so wrong that has landed them in jail or something like that. Usually, it's maybe it was a few $100 fine or something like
Yeah,
that.
people do mistakes.
Yeah, and you just pick up, dust off your shoes, and keep on going.
Yeah.
Um, but the as far as like equipment goes, I was in this phase of every year buying a new piece of equipment. Now all my equipment was used to me, but every year it was just, "Oh, let's get a new thing. Let's spend another 20,000. Let's spend another 30,000." And you think that buying this, like, new equipment and is growing, and at the end of the day, it's really not growing. You're getting more equipment, and it looks growing, and from the outside, it looks like you're doing great. Um, but, I came to find out in, like, 2023 that, "Hey, let's stop buying equipment. Let's see what 2024 holds if we don't buy any equipment." And I go, "Wow, the net profit was a little bit better this year than the previous years." And people, kind of they have this our our government allows you to write off big purchases all in 1 year. Uh, I and it makes it look like that you didn't pay any taxes, which you didn't, but you still had to pay, $30,000 for that piece of equipment, and it still wasn't that, versus having to pay taxes on $30,000 that, um, would have been only what I mean, a few, 20%, 30% of that, which
Mm,
isn't nearly as much
less than
the actual
10K, yeah.
equipment.
Yep.
Yeah. So I mean, I would say that, maybe not have bought as much equipment up front. I'm in a point now where I only have one of my, 4 big pieces of equipment is still on a loan.
Mhm.
We got a few more years left. So, I mean, at this point, worst case scenario, the bank comes, takes the one piece of equipment. It'd be a sad day, I wouldn't like it, but, we would be able to continue on with our business, and maybe we'll lose a little bit of capabilities, but, it wouldn't be door shutting.
Mhm.
I've seen some other shops that, the owner has just bought equipment, and they have a staff of 5 people, and they're, having 401k and this, that, and then next thing you know, within a year, they have, either found a business partner, which then ultimately they end up closing doors, or,
Yeah.
they just close their doors completely, because haven't quite seen they just haven't quite figured that part out of, you can make yourself look busy, and you can feel like you're busy, um, and the money can be coming in,
Mm.
but if someone, you get yourself to a point that if um one person hasn't paid on time, you get start laying off and shutting doors pretty quick.
Yeah.
And so
Great advice.
I yeah, and ended up kind of learning that lesson through seeing other people,
Mm.
and I th I have one employee now, and it's been working out pretty good. And but hopefully things will kind of get back up to the bell curve and will be good. But just like any other business, there's still things to learn, and there's still problems and concerns that you've had that you just didn't know. So
Yep. Yeah, we are like lifelong learners, like as a business owner. So
yeah.
that's okay. Oh, why? Yeah, that's a great advice. Thank you, Nicholas, for participating in Furniture Success Podcast.
Mhm.
And would you like to share your contact information, like for our listeners, like for possible, partnerships, or like if they want to reach out to you, like, would you like to share?
Yeah, you can find me on LinkedIn, Nicholas
Mhm.
Ostrom, and then you can also we have a website, STREDesigns.com, which is STRE Designs with an S.com, and then my you can go on there and find my email information. Then I have an Instagram as well, and that's STRE Designs handle, so you can find us out there.
Mhm. Right. Yeah, thank you, Lucas, for participating at Furniture Success Podcast. And for our listeners, like guys, you can get a free copy of Furniture Marketing book if you listen, till the end. Then you're gonna receive it. Just reach out to us. You can comment, or you can just go to furnituremarketingpros.com. This is like end of the podcast, and if you are still here, like you will receive a free copy. And Nicholas, like your copy will be shipped today or tomorrow, and
Okay.
you will receive a signed copy. Thank you, Nicholas. It was a amazing episode, and look forward to contacting with you in the future.
Thanks,
All
Amit.
right.
Thank you
Yeah.
for having me.
Thank you. Bye.
Yep. Bye.